Hello children, let's come back to our maths class. We have seen some sums from exercise 1.2 which dealt with different types of relations. Yes, let's say the different types of relations that we have studied in our previous classes. Yes, the first one was reflexive, the second one was symmetric, the third one was transitive. And if the relation is reflexive, symmetric and transitive, we say the given relation is an equivalence relation. So I have told you that, I am just saying you again that study the definitions for all the different relations. Okay. We have just completed till sum number 7 from exercise 1.2. We are just going to continue from sum number 8. So take down your classwork, write down question number 8. Let A is equal to ABC. What is the equivalence relation of smallest cardinality on A? What is the equivalence relation of largest cardinality on A? Take down the question. So you have been given with a set A. The elements of A are A, B, C. So you have to find out two parts over here. The first one is you are going to find out the equivalence relation of smallest cardinality, and also you are going to find out the equivalence relation of the largest cardinality on E. So let's see how to explain the equivalence relation for the smallest and the largest cardinality. I hope you have taken down the question. So you have to be fast also. At the same time, the presentation should be very neat. Let's continue our answer. Write on the given thing. So we have a set. So write on the set here. Let A is equal to A, B, C. So this is given to us. Now you have to find out the equivalence relation. So equivalence relation means, what is the meaning of equivalence? The relation will be reflexive. Yes, it will be symmetric, and also it will be transitive. So what are you going to do is, first of all, we are going to define a relation over here. So how are we going to define a relation? See, you are going to find out the relation as A cross A. And you know how to find out the Cartesian product of A cross A that we have already studied in our lower classes. Yes, that is we have studied in our class 10. So how you find out? This is A cross A. That is A, B, C cross A, B, C. Let's find out the answer, children. Come on, go for the answer. A, B, C cross A, B, C. Let's find out the answer. So what do you get here? Start from A, okay? Do not just mix up everything. Follow from A. So A, you get ordered pair. A, B. Yes, next. A, C. Good. Similarly, start for the A, B, A. B, B, C. Next one. C, A. C, B. C, C. So we have defined a relation on A. That is, I have found A cross A. So now what are we going to do? The first thing is we are going to find out the equivalence relation for the smallest cardinality on A. Okay. So what I am going to do is I am going to choose a few pairs from R. Okay, I'll just choose R as A, B, B and C, C. So what is the pairs chosen? A, B, B and C, C. This is just for the understanding part. Just the answer is A, B, C, C. So I am going to explain you how we got this pair, how we are choosing this pair as the smallest cardinality. Okay. Now see, I'll just consider the first part. The first pair I'll take. if I take the first pair as AA. Now let me check, because the question is to check for the equivalence relation. That means the particular pair should be reflexive, should be symmetric, and also should be transitive. So if I take the pair AA, this is reflexive. Yeah, it deals with the same element. So AA. So AA means A is related to A. So it is reflexive. Similarly, let's go for the next part. See. Here, I'll just follow the same thing. I'll just not take the next pair. I'll take the same pair. AB. Instead of AB, what are you taking? AA. Here, actually, what is B? The B is taken as A, because we have to find out the smallest. So, try to take the same pair and try to explain for the symmetric part also. For symmetric part, the definition is A related to B implies B related to A. Okay, children? So, we are going to assume, this is our assumption, that A is B. So here what you get? A related to B. So in place of B, what you have? A implies B related to A. What is B? It's A. So you get AA. So AA implies AA. What is A here? We are assuming A as B. So A related to B implies B related to A. I hope you are being clear with this step. Do not get confused. The thing is to go for the smallest cardinality. For the largest cardinality, we can go on choosing many numbers, many pairs, no problem. But for the smallest one, try to shrink the pairs. So instead of taking different, I am just choosing the same pairs, the same repeated pairs like AA, BB and CC. So how are you going to imagine AA as? You are going to imagine AA as AB, that is A related to B. And what you have to get? B related to A. So B is what? A. That's what we have taken as A. So you get AA. So you say AA is also transitive. So that is for symmetric. So we have checked for reflexive and also we have checked for symmetric. Again, for reflexive, you can take the same pair, AA, AA. So this is A. You can imagine this as B, and you can imagine this as, what is the definition? A related to B and B related to C implies A related to C. So A, B, B, C. Okay? So A related to B and B related to C implies A related to C. What is A and C? A is A, and what is C? A. So you get AA. So if you choose a pair AA and AA and you use the formula for transitive, it is true. You get AA, that is A related to C. So from a particular, that is I have checked for AA, similarly you can check for BB and also you can check for CC. So what happens with the first pair AA? With the first pair AA, we say that R is reflexive, R is symmetric and also R is transitive. We are choosing the same pair because we have to find the smallest cardinality, which is also an equivalence relation. So do not bring all the pairs for the smallest cardinality. So choose the smallest and try to show that it is reflexive, symmetric and transitive. So we have chosen a pair. Now let's write the explanation part here. Here R is reflexive, symmetric and transitive. Therefore R is an equivalence relation. I am talking about this R, okay? I am just, so R is an equivalence relation. Therefore, R is equal to AA, BB, CC is the equivalence relation of the smallest cardinality on A. Smallest cardinality on A. I hope the first part is clear to you children, yeah? So we are going to focus on the smallest cardinality and we have totally 9 pairs. So it's our decision or it's our own assumptions that which pairs to be chosen so that we get a smallest pair. But we have to choose a pair in such a manner that it should be reflexive, it should be symmetric and also it should be transitive. So be careful when you choose the ordered pair. So we have completed the first part, that is we have found the equivalence relation of the smallest cardinality on A. Let's go for the next part of the question, that is you are going to find out the equivalence relation of the largest cardinality. What is the meaning of largest cardinality? You can choose as many number of ordered pairs. So what are the pairs you are going to select over here? See here, I am going to choose the whole A cross A. So same manner I am going to follow here. Let R is equal to AA, AB, AC, BA, BB, BC, CA, CB, CC. Okay, done. So we have taken the whole ordered pairs. Now let us check whether it's reflexive and whether it's symmetric and transitive. Reflexive, yes, A related to A, B related to B, C related to C. So R is reflexive. Here R is reflexive. Let's check for the second part, symmetric. Yes, see, A related to B, so B related to A. Yes, we have A related to B, B related to A related to C, C related to A. B related to C, C related to B. So we say R is symmetric. So I'll write here symmetric. And let's check for the third part. Yes, it's for transitive. So for transitive, how many elements we have to consider? 3. Yes. So what we have, A related to B and B related to C implies A related to C. The BB part goes. So A related to C. Just check whether you have all the pairs. AB, yes. BC, yes. AC, yes. We have all the pairs. So we say the given relation is transitive. So here R is reflexive, symmetric and transitive. Therefore, R is an equivalence relation. Okay, now I just can't go on writing again and again this term. See here how I have started. I have considered one R, the relation. Then I have completed the answer by taking the same relation. Yes. So here what I do, I write therefore R is equal to, what is this all? This is A cross A. So R is equal to A cross A is the equivalence relation of the largest cardinality of A. I hope the sum is clear to you. So the first part we have to choose the minimum ordered pairs. We have to choose the least number of pairs and we have to show that it is an equivalence relation. And the second part we can choose as many number of pairs from A cross A and you have to show that it is an equivalence relation. In the first part the answer was AA, BB, CC. And for the second part you get the answer as A cross A. That is the whole Cartesian product. I hope sum number 8 is clear to you. Okay children, take down the sum. Okay, now take down sum number 9. Let's go for sum number 9. Copy down the question. See the question. In the set Z of integers, so you are going to deal with a set Z of integers. You know the meaning of integers? Integers are the numbers which include all the positive numbers, all the negative numbers, and also the zero. So if you have a number line, 0, this is all the positive part and all the negative parts. So the whole thing is comprised of integers. And how is the integers represented as? Set. A set of integers represents, or it contains, the positive numbers, the negative numbers, and the 0. So the set is being defined on integers, and its m is related to n if m minus n is divisible by 7. Prove that R is in equivalence relation. So here this question is, prove that R is in equivalence relation. This means the R is reflexive, R is symmetric, and also R is transitive. So we have to follow the rules that we follow for our reflexive, symmetric, and transitive, and we are going to show the particular relation is in equivalence relation. This type of question is an important question, and this type of question may be asked for 3 marks. So just understand the question carefully. And sum number 9 and sum number, that is, come to page 17 children, you have one solved example over there. It's 1.13, so both are like one and the same. One and the same, I just can't, it's a multiple of 12, and here it's divisible by 7. So mostly the same methods we have to follow. So we have this type of question for 3 marks. It's an important question. So understand the question and let's go for the answer. I hope you have taken on the question. Shall we start with the answer, children? Okay, let's start with the answer part. So whenever you are checking for an equivalence relation, the first thing is for reflexive. So write out the first part, reflexive. And how you write for reflexive, children? Statement and the rule. What is the statement? Statement and the rule. And the relation. S is statement and here R is relation. Okay, what is the statement given? M minus n is divisible by 7. M minus n is divisible by 7. So that is for the statement part. For reflexive, what you will write? M minus m is divisible by 7. Let's check using a small example. Let's go for a small example over here. M minus m is divisible by 7 means, okay, m minus m means what? 0. Okay, let's suppose you are taking the number as 7. So 7 minus 7 is 0. So 0 or 7 minus 7 is equal to 0 is divisible by 7. Okay. Or m minus 1, you are going to get the same answer as 0. So 0 is divisible by 7. So now what you can write? Yes, what will be the relation? M is related to m. Therefore, R is reflexive. Completed the first part. Yes, children? Yes. So we started with the statement. What was the statement? M minus m is divisible by 7. M minus m will be always 0. That is, if you are taking the same number and you are subtracting them, you get the answer as 0. So m minus m is divisible by 7, which says that m is related to m. Therefore, R is reflexive. The first part is done. Are you clear with the first part, children? Yes, I hope you are clear. Yes, children. Let's, for the second part, what is the heading for the second one? Symmetric. Write down here, symmetric. Let's follow the rule. What's the rule to be followed? Relation, statement, statement, relation. Relation, statement, statement, relation. Symmetric, what is the definition? A related to B implies B related to A. What is A related to B? Yes, M minus N is divisible by 7. They have told you, this is a statement given. M minus N is divisible by 7. Okay, I'll just give you one example for m minus n is divisible by 7. I'll take as 10 and 3. So I get 10 minus 3 is equal to 7 is divisible by 7. Is it clear, children? See, what I have taken for m? I have taken m as 10 and we have taken n as 3. So m minus n is divisible by 7. That is 10 minus 3 is equal to 7 is divisible by 7. Done. So what will be the statement? Yeah, here relation. Yeah, this part, this comes under the statement. Yes. So what will the relation here? M is related to n. So just take this statement here. Okay, this is the statement. This relation, you have to write only the relation. So what is the statement part? The same explanation you have to write down here. Down. So take down here. M minus n is divisible by 7. So write down the explanation here. 10 minus 3 is equal to 7 is divisible by 7. Actually that was the rule. What is that? Relation part. So in relation part only write the relation. And in the explanation part should be written the statement. So m related to n, that is m minus n is divisible by 7. That is 10 minus 3 is equal to 7 is divisible by 7. Okay, now let's see the statement. Next statement. N minus m. A statement. Be careful, children. N minus n is divisible by 7. Let's have a check for this. N minus m, that is 3 minus 10. What is 3 minus 10? Minus 7. Yes, minus 7 is divisible by 7. 7 divisible by 7 gives the answer 1, and 7 divided by minus 7 gives you the answer minus 1. So we say 3 minus 10, which is equal to minus 7, is divisible by 7. So what will be this relation? N is related to m. So I started from m related to n and I got the relation n related to m. So what you say? Therefore R is symmetric. So we have shown that R is symmetric also. We have found that R is reflexive and also we have shown that R is symmetric. Okay, now let's go for the third part, that is for the transitive part. I'll just write. I hope you are able to see your children, yes? So R is symmetric. Give the heading transitive. Now for transitive we have some other type of conditions to be followed, okay? So we are not just going to follow the format RSSR. We'll use a different method over here. And I have told you that this type of question is very, very important, okay? So you will get, always they ask one question from this type for 3 marks. So understand, reflexive is very, very easy, yes? M minus m is divisible, so I say m is related to m. For symmetrics, take the first relation, m related to n. So m minus n divisible by 7. We have shown one example and just we are interchanging the numbers. So 3 minus 10 gives you minus 7, which is also divisible by 7. So n related to m. So you say R is symmetric. Let's check for transitive. What is the definition for transitive? Let's write the rule first or the relation first. M related to n and n related to p. I have to take 3, yes? So m and n is already there in the question, so I just take a new element as p. So m is related to n and n is related to p. Let's write the statement for it. M minus n is divisible by 7, okay, and n minus p is divisible by 7. So what do you mean by m related to n and n related to p? M minus n is divisible by 7 and n minus p is divisible by 7. So let's have a check because we just cannot choose such a type of number, so we'll just do it in a different manner. So what are you going to do here? See, consider or let m minus n is equal to 7. Here np is used. I'll use here k. Let m minus n is equal to 7k. That means m minus n is divisible by 7. It is a multiple of 7. So it is divisible by 7. And n minus p is equal to 7l. M minus n is equal to 7k. For this statement, for m minus n divisible by 7, you are writing m minus n is equal to 7k. And n minus p is divisible by 7, you are writing as n minus p is equal to 7l. Okay. You mentioned k and l are some integers because you are going to choose a numbers from a set of integers. So k and l are some integers. Now what are you going to do here? You are going to add this two. So m minus n plus n minus p. Add the LHS part. M minus n plus n minus p is equal to 7k plus 7l. I have added the LHS part. I have added the RHS part. So 7k plus 7l. So you see the common terms or see the terms that can be cancelled here. N minus n plus n gets cancelled. What is left here? M minus p equal to 7 can be taken common. What is left here? K plus l. You get m minus p is equal to 7 bracket k plus l. So this says that m minus p is divisible by 7. You write the statement m minus p is divisible by 7. So what is the relation you get here? M related to p. I started from m related to n and n related to p, and I got a relation as m related to p. So what's that? Yes, so we say R is transitive. Right on? I hope the step is clear to you, children. It's very easy and it's an important type of problem also. So they may change some numbers. Instead of 7, they may give you some other numbers. Instead of divisible, they can give you some, they may give you as multiple. So you have to follow the same method and just small changes over here, and you have to arrive at the conclusion. So I say R is transitive. So we got m related to m, reflexive. We got m related to n, and we have arrived to n related to m. So we are saying that it is symmetric. We started with the relation m related to n and n related to p. That's m minus n divisible by 7 and n minus p is divisible by 7. We just cannot apply over here the number, so we are just following a rule over here. It's m minus n is equal to 7k. That means m minus n is divisible by 7 and n minus p is divisible by 7. Okay. What is k and l here? K and l are some integers. Add the LHS part and the RHS part. M minus n plus n minus p is equal to 7k plus 7l. Minus n plus n goes. What is left? M minus p is equal to 7. K plus L is taken common. So what do you get? M minus P is divisible by 7. So this means M is related to P. See, M minus N divisible by 7 means M related to N. So M minus P divisible by 7 means M related to P. So you say R is transitive. So now what was the thing to prove? You have to show that R is in equivalence relation. So write down the final statement. Since R is reflexive, symmetric and transitive, since R is reflexive, symmetric and transitive, is equivalence. So we have proved the given relation is an equivalence relation. Yes, children, so we have completed sum number 9. So with this we complete our exercise 1.2. I hope we are just going with around 2 weeks we have taken for completing our 2 exercise. So we are going very slow. It was done step by step. So you have to complete all your classworks, all your homeworks and all the solved examples till 1.2. Just have a thorough study of all the solved examples. The classworks will be easy because you have explained you all the steps. So the classwork would be easy. And the homeworks also you have tried by yourself, so you get an idea of how to go for the homework steps. Now solved example is a big deal over here. You have to solve the solved examples, understand the steps, because in some cases they would have done the steps directly. So you have to understand, you have to analyze the problem, you have to think what are the steps, how it is being done, and have a package of all the solved examples done. You have to keep all the solved examples ready. You know that solved examples will also be asked in the exam. So you have to be thorough with your solved examples also. So with exercise 1.2 we complete our second part of the lesson, that is relations. And now we are going to move to a new topic, that is functions. Okay, so we are not new to this topic, functions. We have already studied about functions in our class 10. So here what we are going to do is, we are just going to have a detailed study of functions. In the previous classes we only studied a definition of functions, and also we have seen some types of functions and some problems based on functions. Here a small, or here we have a more detail of functions. So let's have a detailed study of functions. Come to page 19. You have a heading over there as functions. A box is given there. Can you see a box of definition? Yes, 1.6. You are going to write down the definition for function. It is a definition for function. So after completing your sum, give the heading as so point 1.2 completed. Give the heading points to remember, and under that write down the first definition for functions. Okay, write down the definition for functions. You have read the whole definition. Let A and B be two sets. Let A and B be two sets. A relation from A to B, a subset of A cross B, is called a function from A to B if it satisfies the following. So the two conditions are there to be followed. So when you say a particular relation is a function, if it satisfies both the condition. Okay, what is the first condition? For all A belonging to A, there is an element B belonging to B such that AB belonging to F. And what is the second point? If AB belonging to F and AC belonging to F, then B is equal to C. Write down the definition. I'll explain to you what is the meaning of definition. What is the definition over here? A relation from A to B, a subset of A cross B, is called a function from A to B if it satisfies the following. If it satisfies the following. So when you say that a given relation is a function, see, you have two sets, A and B. Okay, a relation from A to B should be a subset of A cross B. That is, from where you should take the relation will be taken from A cross B. That is, you have to take the Cartesian product of A and B, and you have to choose the pair from the subset of A cross B. That is, the members should be from A cross B. And also it should satisfy the following condition. For all A belonging to A, that is an element. So from where are you going to take A? You are going to take A from A. There is an element B belonging to B such that AB belonging to F. So AB belonging to F means A will be taken from A and B will be taken from B. Okay. Go for the second point. If AB belonging to F and AC belonging to F. Suppose you have two pair. One is AB which is belonging to F, and also you have pair AC belonging to F. Then what you say? We say B is equal to C. Remember the condition, children. So we have written the definition for function. So you have to study the definitions also. You may be asked the definition. That is, you may be asked to write the definition. So you have to be thorough with all the definitions. Okay. So what was the definition for function? Let us have a small glance. So you have to consider two sets. Okay. What are the sets we have considered here? A and B. Okay. When you say that it is a relation, so a relation from A to B, a subset of A cross B. So a relation from, we have a relation from A to B. It is also a subset of A cross B, and that is called a function from A to B. And you have to satisfy the condition that A will be, that is small a will be taken from A and small b, that is the first pair. You have an ordered pair A comma B, yeah? So the first pair will be taken from the set A and the second pair will be taken from the set B such that AB will belong to F. That is, AB will be belonging to a function. And if you have AB belonging to F and AC belonging to F, you say B is equal to C. Okay. So this is the definition. Remember the condition. So it should be a relation from A to B. It should be a subset of A cross B, and A belonging to A and B belonging to B, AB belonging to F. AB belonging to F, AC belonging to F, then B is equal to C. This is the definition that already we have seen in our class 10. So just a small recap of what we have done in our previous class. Okay. So we have some ways of representing our functions. Let's have, so come to page 20. This writing part, only we have functions. Just take the definition for functions. So just write on the second point, we have, we'll write one more point. Ways of representing functions. So what are the different ways of representing function? Ways of representing functions. The first one is graphical representation. Graphical representation. The second one is tabular representation. And the third one is analytical representation. Third one, analytical representation. Okay, let's have a detailed study about these three different types of representation. Yes, what is the first way of representing a function? It is by graphical representation. Graphical representation, you can represent a function using a graph. Like you can have a graph, whatever you have a graph. Okay, so you can represent a function using a graph. This is your graphical representation. And whenever you represent a function in the form of table, like you have a value for x and y, you say it as tabular representation. It is a tabular representation. You can see the definition, or you can see the examples they have given in page 20. You have a tabular representation, a table is given. Graphical representation, the graph. You can see in page 21, you can see some graphs are given. So the way of representing a function using graph will be a graphical representation. Analytical representation. Now what is analytical representation? Analytical representation is defining a function analytically. See, the definition is very, very easy. What is the analytical representation? Defining or representing a function analytically. So now let's see what is analytical representation. See the examples there, children. See, you have some examples as x cube plus 5. So you may have some terms with a power. You may have some trigonometric values. You may have a log value. You may have a square root. Okay, so you may have some constants. So all the different things come under analytical representation. So what are the examples? You have the example as x cube plus 5. Yes. And you may have some functions which involve the trigonometric values. You may have some functions which includes log values. Okay. So this all are the examples of analytical representation. What is the definition for analytical representation? A function is represented analytically. So what are the different ways of representing a function? Graphical representation, tabular representation, analytical representation. Okay, children? So we have studied the different ways of representing a function. I hope you have taken down these points. So just write down these 3 examples. X cube plus 5, sin x plus cos x upon x square plus 1, log x plus 5 root x. Take down the examples. Okay. Now let's come to page 22. You have there many types of functions. You have identity function, you have constant. So I'll just explain you some elementary functions. So no need to write down the functions, just understand what is the different elementary functions. So we have a function. First one is identity function. So it is written as f of x is equal to x. Suppose you have a mapping A to A, like A, B, C. Okay? C. Fx is equal to, if you have the format f of x is equal to x, you call it as identity function. This you have to use for your, this may be asked for the multiple choice question. So understand the question carefully. It's identity means f of x is equal to x. And for constant, you may have f of x is equal to c, a constant number. Everything goes for a constant, a, b, c, 1, 2, 3. So a, b, c. Okay, everything is matched to 1. So this is a constant function. F of x is equal to c implies it is a constant function. If you have f of x is equal to 0, you call it as a zero function. So what are the 3 functions we have seen? The first one is identity function. F of x is equal to x. Every element is mapped to itself. Identity A, B, B, C, C. Constant. Everything is mapped to a constant for one mapping. And f of x is equal to 0 is called a zero function. Let's go for the fourth one. you have a function called absolute or modulus function. This is an important thing, and this is a new, we have already studied about this in our lower classes. Absolute function or modulus function. See, f of x is as mod x. This is taken as x minus x. If x is greater than 0, if x is less than 0, if x is equal to 0. So what is the modulus function? F of x is equal to mod x. And how to define mod x? It will take positive x if x is greater than 0. It will take the value minus x if x is less than 0. It takes the value 0 if x is equal to 0. So remember the absolute function. So what was the fourth function? Absolute function or modulus function. F of x is equal to modulus x. What is the meaning of modulus x? It takes the value x if x is greater than 0. It takes the value minus x if x is less than 0. It takes the value 0 if x is equal to 0. Are you clear? Actually, what happens, whenever we represent the value, you get the answer as positive. That's what we have studied in our lower classes. We have studied in our, we have studied in 8th and we have studied. So, absolute value of 5 is 5, yes? And what is the value for absolute of minus 5? It's 5. But you may have a confusion, okay, for positive it is positive, agreed. If it is greater than 0, I get the answer positive, okay. But here it is minus x, how I get minus x? See here, I'll tell you this explanation. If it's minus 5, what is the answer? If it is less than 0, it is taken as minus of x, minus of x. So minus, and what is the x here? Minus 5. So what you get? Minus of minus 5? Plus 5, yes. So, if it's minus 5, what is the condition? Minus x. If x is positive, the answer is x. If less than 0, the answer is minus x. And if it is 0, the answer is 0. So, modulus x is defined on 3 conditions. One is for positive, one for negative, and one for 0. I hope the type of function is clear to you, absolute function is clear to you. Okay, now let's go for the next one, that's signum function. What is the next type of function? You can see there's some fourth subpart. Signum function. Signum function. So f of x is equal to x upon mod x. 2 conditions again. X upon mod x. If x is not equal to 0, and 0 if x is equal to 0. Clear with the function? What is the signum function? We have 2 functions, or we have 2 conditions for signum. If x is not equal to 0 and x is equal to 0.
ini எவ்வளவு இருக்குமா? இது 20% நீங்க பேசுங்க.
Okay, so what is a signum function? F of x is equal to x upon mod x if x is not equal to 0, and we have 0 if x is equal to 0. Okay children, I just give you the homework part here. The homework is exercise 1.3, sum number 1, sum number 2 and sum number 3. Oh, you have studied all this type of questions in your lower classes, so you have to refer your old books. That's why we say do not throw any books. Yes, so you have to just have a glance from the previous lower classes and you're going to complete the sum. So from exercise 1.3, you're going to complete sum number 1 as the homework, So you have to draw the arrows. Yes, you have to check whether the relation is a function using arrow diagram. I hope you recollect the sums that we have done. Yeah, we have checked whether the relation is a function using the arrow diagram. So you draw the arrow diagram and you have to explain why it is a function or why it is not a function. So complete sum number 1. Okay. You have to complete sum number 2 and also you have to complete sum number 3. Sum number 2 and sum number 3. You have been given with some values. You have to go for -4, 1, -2, 7, 0. See here, -4. Where will be -4 present? Just come to question number 2. I'll just have a small clarifications. I'll just explain to you. We have -infinity less than x less than -3. -3 less than x less than -2, -2 less than or equal to x less than 1, 1 less than or equal to x less than 7 and otherwise. So we have such a conditions. So you know, yes children, these all things you know. -infinity less than x less than or equal to -3. Less than or -3 means till -3 it's included. -3, -2, -1, 0 goes on. Here -3 is not included. It's less than. Here also it is less than. So what is the number here? -3 less than x less than -2. So you have the numbers between -3 and -2 like -2.3, -2.4, -2.5 and so on. -2 less than or equal to x less than 1. Yeah, here -2 is included. -1, 0, 1 is not included. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is not included. So you have to choose a proper interval. We have done this type of sum in our class 10. I hope you remember. Yes children. So I'll just have here let's go for the first part. You have to find out the value for f at -4. So what do you have to find? F of -4. Okay, where is f of -4? F at -4. -4, where is -4? That's -3, yeah. It will be, actually here is a number line, yes. So -3, -4, -5, yeah. So this is -3, -4, -5 and so on. -6 and so on. So you will have the first choice. What is the first condition? -x plus 4, yes. -x plus 4. -x plus 4 means what? -4 plus 4. Minus of minus plus 4 plus 4 which is equal to 8. Yes. So you are going to follow this sum and complete question number 2 and complete question number 3. So you can just refer your class 10 books. Okay children. So complete your homework which is 1.3, sum number 1, sum number 2 and sum number 3. Okay. Now let's come back to our function because we were going with more functions, so we should not have a confusion. So I have just a small refresh for you. I have given you the homework part. Now let's come back to our function. Okay, so what were the functions we have studied? The first one was identity, good. Second one, constant. Third one, 0. Fourth one, absolute function or modulus function. And the fifth one, signum function. Now let's come for the last type of function which is called as, what is the next function? They are called as floor functions. See here, we have two functions. One is floor function or ceil function. Both the functions together are called as step functions. So we'll just have the heading here as step functions. What is the last type of function? Step functions. See, if you have an integer in this part, if you have the base part. Can you see the L is touching at the ground part. So you call this type of function as floor function. It is a floor function. If you have on the ceiling, if the L is denoted like this, that is, it starts from the top to bottom. Here it's bottom, or you can say top to bottom, or here how we'll say, this L is lying on the floor and here L is lying on the seal. Seal means a ceiling fan. You can take an example of a ceiling fan. It is over the head. So over the head, this is called as seal functions. S-E-E-I-L, seal function. Remember the two functions under step? One is floor and one is seal. Floor is, the L is on the floor part and here L is on the seal part. Let's see a small examples over here. If it's 1.56 means you have to take, now we know that where is 1.56 lying between 1 and 2. So you have to take the floor number. Floor number means the smallest number, that's 1. If it's 7.25, yeah, 7, the smallest number, it lies between 7 and 8, so you take the number as 7. Similarly, let's go for seal function, 1.56. Take the bigger number, that's 2. 7.25. Take the bigger number, yeah, 8. So this is what we call as step function. So we have not used this function, so this is a new function. So don't get confused with this function. So remember, under step function you have two functions. One is flow function and one is seal function. Flow, the L touches on the ground. Seal, the L is on the seal. When you are finding 1.56 means, take the smallest number. You know that it lies between 1 and 2. So take the smallest number 1. For a seal 1.56, take the biggest number. That is, it is lying between 1 and 2. So you have to take the number 2. So with this, we have seen the different ways of elementary functions, and also we have seen the different ways of representing function. And what is your homework, children? You are going to complete sum number 1, sum number 2, and sum number 3. So you are going to refresh your mind, you are going to go back, you are going to think, and you are going to apply the study, that is lesson number 1. So it is from lesson number 1. So you are going to recollect all the things that we have studied in our class 10, and you are going to complete the homeworks and you are going to submit it. Okay, children? Okay. So in the next class, we will continue with the remaining sums. I hope you are being clear with the different elementary functions and also the definition for function. Okay, we stop over here.